Come back to court on the 19th of April and I will give you a hearing date. Your response is, objection, Your Honour. Am I your property, Your Honour? And the magistrate replies, yes, you are actually.
Beautifully said. That is exactly what happened, and I was floored because there was a couple things that happened before that even, and if you read the transcript, you'll see it, that I never entered a plea before the court. I wasn't there to make a plea to the court. So the magistrate, acting on my behalf and without my consent, entered a plea for me, to which I objected and asked her if she was practicing from the bench. Then she moved to adjourn to a hearing, and that was when I asked if I'm her property, and she said, yes, you are. So I objected immediately and said, I require you to produce evidence of this claim. I'm nobody's property. And
what makes this magistrate think that you're her property? I mean, I've never seen such an admission. I think that the government thinks that we're their property. They certainly behave that way. I've never seen such an admission from a magistrate, and these people are very careful with their words. What do you think makes this magistrate think that you are her property?
well, I mean, here we want to, you're getting into this idea of legal identity and what would you call a legal fiction, which is the birth certificate, where, there's an entity that's created at your birth, which is where the courts hold their jurisdiction over us. And so through legal trickery, I would say, they trick people into believing that they are their legal fiction. And so it's called joindering, where you accept that you're liable for what happens to that piece of paper. So the magistrates work in a commercial capacity in this case, and they believe, and probably, maybe from a legal point of view, because they own that document, do have jurisdiction over that legal identity. But I'm not that legal identity, and I made that clear, nor did I consent to the proceedings. I also made that clear. The magistrate has just overlooked all of that. She's trying to steamroll me. And that was what carried through into the second and third appearances. So I really can't answer what is going on in her mind, because like you said, these people are generally very precise in their words, and I take their words at face value. So when she says, yes, you are my property, I believe her, that she believes that. So
I can understand.
I think she's the one that needs to answer that.
I agree. And I understand that, I understand what you're saying, because you're not the first person that I've spoken to that talks about these fake birth certificates, essentially, that then are issued, that sort of make people in their minds their property. And this is where the whole argument of sovereignty comes from. Not sovereign citizen, that's an oxymoron. That's what the mainstream media uses to attack people that actually talk about being a living man or woman. They pick and choose people that don't maybe understand this concept fully, and write slander pieces about them. But what you're talking about is something that Professor Dolores Cahill speaks about regularly, about these corporations going and acting as government, even to the point of a police officer, working for a corporation, not actually for the government. And so, I understand the concept. I've never heard one of them openly say, even if they have that belief, never heard one of them openly say, yes, you are my property. This is astounding.
I 100% agree, and I've never run into it myself. And, I mean, I haven't studied this my whole life, but I do know enough to know that nobody owns me, certainly not this woman. And if she wants to make that claim, then I accept that conditionally, that she provides proof. If she can prove that she owns me, then I guess she can do what she will with me. But if she doesn't produce that proof of ownership, she's made a claim, which is a trespass. She has caused great wrong and harm against myself. And I want her, like, she is in abuse of the position of trust that she has been given in the community. She is there to mediate disputes, to enforce contracts, and to bring justice to criminal behavior in the community. She's not there to claim ownership over anybody. as certainly not without a contract or consent. It doesn't work that way.
I absolutely agree. I'd love to know what's in this person's mind. And, you know, I think many people recall reading US Supreme Court documents that speak about, you know, owning human beings if they're patented and all of this sort of stuff. You know, it's a very interesting consideration. Perhaps this is what this individual is thinking. I don't know. But I can certainly assure this individual that she doesn't own anyone. Absolutely astounding, Aaron. Where to from here?
Well, okay, so I have provided her with 3 notices, and I have a tacit agreement enforced on the public record, challenging her, or requiring her, I should say, to produce her evidence. She either produces her evidence that she has a claim over my bodily autonomy, that she, in other words, owns me, as she says, that there is a contract or obligation in place where I'm bound to be subjected to this not complying with notice, direction, or failure to comply with the requirement of this Public Health Act, or that there's an actual man or woman who I've brought harm to, either themselves or their property. If there's no man or woman stepping forward to make that claim, and I've been there 3 times waiting for somebody to stand up and point their finger and say, that's the man. That hasn't happened. They need to produce their contract or obligation where I'm bound to be to follow their rules, or she needs to produce her claim of ownership, which she doesn't have.
Absolutely
and barring
not.
all of that, I'm shocked that these people want me back in their court, because you can read from the transcript. I'm not afraid of these people. These people are acting in open corruption, perpetrating fraud and vexatious litigation against someone who has caused no wrong or harm. I've never been convicted of a crime. I'm an upstanding member of the community. I work with children. I help grown people turn their lives around through the work that I do. So I'm not a criminal, but they're treating me like one. And in fact, on the 3rd appearance, when she didn't like what I said, because I basically challenged her to sit down and finish this, she threatened me with a custodial sentence over unnamed charges. So she's told me that they'll be considering a custodial sentence for me, which means they want to put me in prison.
Based on what?
That's the question. Based on what? There is no answer. I'm being persecuted by an unnamed person. I don't even know who it is that's out alleging that I've caused wrong or breached in contract or obligation. And I'm up against unknown criminal charges. They haven't defined the charge. There's no definition for what they've claimed I'm there for. So I really don't know, because none of their paperwork has described it.
Well, I've read the documents. I can see what you've supplied me with. I struggled to figure it out on my end, purely because, you know, all that we've got here is not comply with notice, direction. That's all that I can see.
Correct. And, you know, I mean, I've tried to communicate with the police prosecutors, but they switch them out like chewing gum. I've had a different police prosecutor at the 3 different appearances that I've made. And now they're purportedly acting on behalf of an unknown agency or person, but they won't tell me who that is. And yeah, and so in none of their paperwork, the only paperwork I've been supplied with was statements by the police, which are conflicting statements. And I didn't give you those, but if you're interested, I'd be happy to supply them so you could see what the police are saying on their side. One police officer claimed I was part of an unlawful gathering. Another one claimed that I was out without a mask. Another claimed that I was video recording, and that's not a valid reason to be out of your house. So the police themselves in their statements don't even have a straight story, and none of the things that they've said indicate that a crime was committed. So why was I placed under arrest and charged criminally for something that didn't happen?